First there was Zarathustra, then there was Socrates, then there was Plato's Socrates, then there was Nietzsche's Zarathustra. Now there is my condescending Lincoln, the spokesman for the solid quarry of relatively sober reason. Abraham Lincoln has returned in the 21st century to tell us that Zarathustra was mistaken when he stopped by about 70 years ago to tell us that God is dead, meaning generally that value judgments cannot be said to be right or wrong because they are merely human creations, that they are just like someone's opinion man. To this end, Lincoln has told me that I am to create a fictionalized representation of him known as the condescending Lincoln. He has told me this through many different personalities and with many different messages. To begin with, we have to ask the question, who was Abraham Lincoln really? What did he represent? It seems to me that we do no injustice to Lincoln, supposing him to be a candidate for the relatively modern spokesman of the West par excellence, and for those two formative strains of Western thought, Athens and Jerusalem. Lincoln is a particularly attractive candidate because he spent his entire public life advocating for the same kind of abstract good at which Nietzsche took aim with his Zarathustra. He's told me a lot of things, but don't worry, I've taken notes. Do the right thing at the right time. What is right consists in the particular situation. We can't even speak about what is right without considering particular situations. We should ask questions like, is it possible to do the right thing? And has anyone ever done the right thing before? Doing the right thing at the right time is more important than being consistent, or rather, it is the only thing that you should do consistently. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. It is much easier to know what is right in retrospect. Determining what is right can be incredibly difficult, like rocket science or learning ancient Greek, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. It is the most noble task of the historian to present a situation adequately such that we can attempt to make relatively sober judgments about what is right, whether the right thing was done, etc. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. There are particular situations in which we have to make general rules. Some general rules are better for a society than others. But even so, that doesn't mean that their application is right in every case. That is incredibly complicated. In modern times, we call some general rules rights. The conflict between the need for the universal and the particular in human life should be said to be the political problem par excellence, and later on I will speak about it a little bit more. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. People are equal and unequal. All people have a kind of equality, but just because we are equal in one way, that doesn't mean that we are equal in every way. Just because someone is superior in one way, that doesn't mean that they are superior in every way. People are good at what they are good at. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Generalizations are true about what generalizations are true about. That is, they have exceptions. If there is a particular case to which a generalization doesn't apply, then the generalization doesn't apply to that case. That doesn't necessarily refute the generalization. If you object to a generalization on the basis of, well, not all this or that, then you have to reconsider how generalizations work. I guarantee you that the person making the generalization has considered that argument before. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. People are biased by their personal experience. In general, people cannot be impartial judges in their own cases. That is one reason why we have government. There are people with a given identity that have pretty much every view, of course, other than identities based on having certain views. So, arguments based on someone's identity are not really meaningful. Isn't one of the values of literature that you are able to learn about the experiences of people that are in different situations from you? Ad hominem doesn't just refer to personal insults. It refers to arguments that are made on the basis of someone's identity in general, such as, he or she has this or that identity, so your opinion isn't valid. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Modernity is biased by its personal experience and wants to be the judge in its own case. It notices that its physical sciences are superior to all previous physical sciences and concludes that it is superior in every way. The only other comprehensive system of political thought that could be a competitor that I know of is what we call classical philosophy, especially that from 4th century BC Athens, which may actually be the high point of political thought. There is classical liberalism, but that is quite inferior to classical political philosophy and necessarily leads to modern political science anyway. Athens has the belt, all right? The championship belt. You want that belt? You got to go through Plato and Aristotle, brother. 2,500 years later, and they're still standing. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Scientists have renounced their ability to make value judgments, that is, about whether something is good or bad or how to live life well. And consequently, they are generally poor at making value judgments when they actually make them, which, by the way, they cannot avoid doing. They see that their physical science is superior to every prior physical science, and they conclude that they are superior in general and disregard much of the best advice that we've gotten about how to live well. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. With some subjects, opinion is limited to being just like someone's opinion, man. But with others, there can be true or false opinion. The fact that there are different opinions about a subject would be true in either case, whether there can be true opinions or not. So we cannot infer that an opinion is just like someone's opinion, man, just because people have different opinions. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Oh, yeah, Metallica sucks. I can enjoy listening to Metallica, but they are not good. People tell me that their drummer is an a-hole, and I bet he is, but I don't really know about that. What I'm saying is that their music sucks. It's banal in the bad way. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Just because a majority agrees about something, that doesn't make it right. Actually, it's quite likely to be the opposite. Things that have broad appeal tend to be superficial. Greatness doesn't usually have broad appeal. This is even agreed upon by such so-called nihilists as the aforementioned Nietzsche and also Heidegger. If you think about this in Greek terms, it seems to undercut much of their philosophies. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Make the best case for other people's opinions. Just because you win an argument, that doesn't make you right. That's quite a problem, huh? To have some idea that you are right, you have to defeat the best case that can be made for someone's opinion. That is, you have to deal with their opinion in an abstract way that isn't stubbornly linked to personality. You have to allow context to contribute to meaning. You have to debate the fictional person that generally represents them or that has the views that they want to have. You have to debate the foil par excellence. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Someone doesn't have to be stupid to disagree with you. Someone doesn't have to be evil to disagree with you. Someone doesn't have to be stupid to think superficially about something. There are smart and dumb people that hold most every view, thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Take ancient texts seriously. What someone doesn't say can be as important as what they do say. Teachings are cherry picked. Someone doesn't have to accept an entire teaching. Get over it. One reason for this is that you are supposed to make the best case for a view. Related to this is that you may not be the direct audience that the speaker was addressing, and so he or she might address you differently. But in general, it is because what is right consists in a particular situation, and particular teachings are expressed about particular situations, but they can still be related to other situations mutatis mutandis, that is, all necessary changes being made. You should cherry pick wisely, that is, you should cherry pick the right way. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. People are individuals on the margins, or being an individual is an accomplishment, but people belong to groups. People are what Aristotle called the political animal. We live together by speaking with each other about how to live well, but we can't create our own first language and are therefore indoctrinated with a whole package of views. Consider the differences between people who have spent their whole life in San Diego, Saudi Arabia, and North Korea, and then tell me that people are simply individuals. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Knock it off with the sketchy shit. Sketchy shit isn't cool. If you don't do sketchy shit, then this doesn't apply to you. If you do sketchy shit, then you should probably knock it off. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. You cannot have a free society unless people are generally virtuous. Oh, I know. Well, who says what virtue is? Well, we'll say what can be said, which is that virtue is what is required for a free society. In this context, virtue is practically a synonym for being able to govern yourself. Freedom isn't being able to do whatever you want, if for no other reason than that what you want to do is not simply up to you. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Or let me put it this way: how society should be run is something that can be learned about. People with this knowledge should run society. A free society that allows the mass of people to run it requires that people generally have something that resembles this knowledge. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Society can't be run according to genuine knowledge if for no other reason than that society requires a division of labor. People have specialized jobs that they do. Some people work in the service industry, some in manufacturing, some are doctors, lawyers, etc. Society requires that most people are not fanatically committed to thinking through the most important things in life, and there will always be people that have superficial beliefs about those things. There will always be irrational prejudice. We should tolerate prejudices that are not too intolerable. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Society is not guaranteed permanent existence. At what point should we expect the danger to approach? The danger will come from within. If a society continues to exist, it is because people took action to preserve it. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Children should be ruled by their parents, but the parents should rule like statesmen, not tyrants. Do you know how superficial this nonsense is going around, that people that believe that children should be ruled by their parents are more likely to support authoritarianism is? Oh, it's political science, don't you know? It's scientific. Parents should rule children so that the children can go on to become adults that can live freely. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Even if the best people to rule became that way because of some kind of inherited privilege, they are still the best people to rule. Such people ruling does not rule out the possibility that society is a meritocracy. Relatively sober thinkers want people to inherit privilege. That being said, it is also noble to consider justice as the common good par excellence, but not at the expense of insisting that society be ruled by unqualified people. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Stick to the arts, hippies. I willingly grant that many of humanity's greatest accomplishments are from hippies, or at least hippies in a general sense. But you can't have a society of hippies unless, I suppose, they mooch off some other society. Hippies should stick to the arts, because otherwise, if they infect politics and society generally, the society that they are mooching off of will have to find some other society off which to mooch. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. You can say that Jamestown or Barbados was founded on slavery, but it is quite questionable that it can be said about America's founding generally, which is understood to refer to the independence movement in the last half of the 18th century. In fact, that movement was a high point of anti slavery sentiment that wasn't matched for a number of decades. In fact, slavery became more popular in America during the 19th century after the invention of the cotton gin in 1792. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Native Americans were always doomed. Africans, too. They had the misfortune to live on land masses defined by north-south axes and to have inherited a very poor supply of founding crops and game. In America, 90% of the deaths of Native Americans are believed to have been from disease brought by Westerners who had no knowledge of germ theory. We can discuss the many aspects of the Western project that were gratuitously cruel, but the project was nonetheless inevitable. We should see the West as a bunch of universal ideas, and today we should work to provide the best for everyone, at least in practical, non utopian terms. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. It was always likely, also, that the West would triumph over the East. The East has been much more unified politically during its history, due especially to favorable geographic conditions, or, as it turns out, not really so favorable since they were able to use their centralized political rule to stomp innovation and impede progress, whereas the West has never really been politically unified, not for very long anyway. So, an important lesson that we should take from the historical opposition of East and West is the importance of political decentralization. Anyway, the West won and promptly and prematurely rationalized itself out of existence, as in postmodernism, nihilism, etc. And so now the West doesn't take itself seriously, which is the crisis of modernity. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Hate evil. Hate the right things at the right time. Doing away with hate is really just a slogan that people tell themselves. It's a superficial, modern, virtue signaling, noble lie, but it's not really even noble at all. If there really is nothing that you hate, then I have to question to what extent you love anything. You should hate what threatens what you love, and you should love goodness and what is right. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln. Be not afraid of greatness. Greatness puts you in conflict with society. You will be despised, etc. But greatness is worth it. Society demands conformity. That's how society is. Don't resent it. Society doesn't exist for you. Society doesn't exist for me. The fact that the best thing for the individual and the best thing for society are not in perfect harmony is the political problem par excellence. Be not afraid of greatness. Thus spoke Abraham Lincoln.